Kavos Media.
There's a whole history here between the US and Iran that most people in this country have no idea about, and they need to. It's a history of domination and oppression by US imperialism that's had a profound impact on events, on the lives of the Iranian people, and is shaping developments to this day. Iran used to be known as Persia, an area, a country with a very long, rich history. It's situated right in the heart of the Middle East, which for centuries has been a battleground of different empires because of its location, because of the trade routes that ran through, and most recently, because of oil. For over 100 years now, Iran has been dominated by imperialism. The British were the first to get their claws into the country in the early 1900s. They took control of Iran's oil for a song. They exploited it for their own imperialist interests, not the interest of the nation of Iran or the Iranian people. They reaped 85% of the profits and left most Iranians in dire and bitter poverty. Following World War II in the late 1940s and early 1950s, a mass nationalist movement arose headed by then Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, and it nationalized the Iranian oil industry, took control of it in order to use it to develop Iran's industry and so on and so forth. This was a real threat to the imperialists, and they reacted with fury. The CIA organized a coup backed by the British, which in 1953 violently overthrew Mossadegh, crushed this movement that had arisen, put a fascist monarch, the Shah of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, on the throne and consolidated the US's hold on this strategically very critical country. The cost of this to the people of Iran was horrific. The imperialists developed Iran's economy for their interests, mainly focused around oil, a small enclave of advanced development in this whole sea of feudalism, traditional small production, and massive poverty. Meanwhile, the Shah was spending billions of dollars building a police state in Iran and a very advanced military force, which the US used together with the state of Israel to defend its interests in the Middle East, as well as to confront the Soviet Union. During these 25 years, the Shah reigned, thousands and thousands were jailed, tortured, murdered. When I was there, people told me stories of whole families being decimated by the hated secret police trained by the US, the Savak, or stories of parents being tortured in front of their children. Jimmy Carter invited the Shah to the Washington, D.C. in December and toasted him as an island of stability in this volatile region. Weeks later, protests began in Iran that snowballed into a torrent of revolution. They murdered thousands of people on Black Friday in September. This did not stop the revolution. It fueled the revolution. By December 1978, 10 million Iranians were in the street on one day, the protests of Ashura. That's equivalent to what, 80 million people in this country going out on one day? Since 1979, the United States and Iran have sharply clashed. The US encouraged Saddam Hussein to launch an 8-year war against Iran and helped arm and fuel that. There was open consideration of all-out war against Iran under George W. Bush. for decades, the U.S. has sanctioned Iran in various ways, especially in the last decade, causing massive suffering. Again, this is vital information to show that the United States is not a force for good in the world, and that we need to think about humanity first, not America first. Thank you.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند